Hey y'all, Blackfist and Red Blades here with a quick review for the book that's an ebook called, I'm actually skipping on the name for some reason. I know it's subtitled Chronicles of the Sands. The Exiles, that's what it's called. The Exiles, Chronicles of the Sand, Book 1. Unfortunately, it is the only book because I tried looking it up. I actually liked it. So, you have your holy warrior, actually called a holy writer in the book, named Rashid Al-Tahima, or something along the lines of it. The book is basically a high fantasy with a clear motivation or inspiration from Indian, Sub-Saharan Africa, Arabian, and a little bit of European settings. Long story short, the main character finds himself entangled in a bunch of conspiracies as political leaders start dying, and the prophet, who is the leader of the holy city called Al-Kir, is basically about to be on his way to the afterlife. That's at the beginning of the book. And long story short, there's an entire thing about different religious usurpation, different people and their lineage, about how they're trying to figure out or trying to take over the city, and basically our hero, along with everybody else, is just trying to figure out why the city is becoming more radical as far as the religious needs, especially because it was a city that had, well, brothels, gambling, traders who would fudge their numbers in order to get away with it, and then they were becoming more radical in their religious I shouldn't say persecution, but yeah, persecution. Along with new religious groups being formed, or different warriors and their own special powers. Rashid, our hero, basically is able to he's basically a desert Jedi, if there's any other, for lack of a better term. And he basically he wields his own sword, or sword of saber, and fights against others that pretty much are trying to kill him or try to figure out what's going on with his deal and his lineage in order to prevent any inspiration of upheaval. Because the way things are going, there's a person called The One, or like the architect of the world, who first gave a lot of people their powers, and there's a clear emphasis on generational or bloodlines that allow you to have such powers, aka Desert Jedi. But the thing about it is that depending on how diluted it is, depends on how powerful you are and all that. Anyways, it just goes into an entire mystery of how the new prophet, after the previous, is already sent on to the great beyond and fighting against the darkness. Well, not really a darkness, but there's a form of evil with lizard people and demons. In which case, the way the book had it, I couldn't tell if demons were supposed to be just foreigners or actual, like, monsters and creatures. Though there are different monsters, creatures, and the supernatural / arcane, it does get more of a point of fighting against other people instead of these so-called monsters. Now, that being said, I give the book at least an 8 out of 10 because it is intriguing about how all the political subterfuge that these warriors, who are only meant to actually fight, have to actually bounce and deal with, because they all eventually become the bad guys in the new regime, in a way. And learning more and more about how the desert and all the politics and the history is interesting. The only thing that makes it a little bit more difficult is the fact that there is not a lot of space in between different scenes. Now, the good thing, or the cool thing, is that you do have multiple character perspectives that it actually goes out of its way to showing. But the biggest part, or the biggest problem about it, is that there's not a lot of spacing to show. Because there was a scene where there was a guy, well, it was Rashid. He was climbing a wall and about to talk to someone. Then there was another part talking about the previous, or the first prophet, who was having a conversation with one of his underlings. And then there was another part where one guy who was a messenger was actually out in the desert fights against a skeleton, and then because of how quickly I was trying to read in a little spacing, it already went to another scene in the same chapter with back to the prophet having a political conversation. I was like, wait a minute, wait, what's going on? So it can get confusing, but you do get used to it as soon as you start to recognize the names, in which case the names are hard. I don't have any history or experience of trying to say most of Indian, Arabian, or even very long named African names, but there is a good number of them, because even saying the main character's name by himself is kind of, it's not something I'm used to. Especially because you have all the different pronunciations that have pauses and whatnot. Because his name is Rashid Al-Tihama or something like that. I'm on the road right now, so I'm just calling from memory. Either way, it is intriguing. The storyline and characters all seem rich, and especially when it comes to the fact that they do have their history. One thing that is kind of crazy, though, is just some of the names feel a little too long and unnecessary for some of the characters that are going to be thrown away or not focused on as much. I can't really say that too much, as I'm having troubles just remembering even the prophet's name. I don't remember even right now, or the prophet afterwards, because it has actually been 3 weeks since I last read the book. But it was still an interesting read, and I do recommend it. So, either way, for the Desert Jedi, I do recommend the book to at least enjoy, even though after doing the research for Ian Thornberg's Thornberg series, he hasn't come out with another one since 2020, if I remember correctly. So yeah. Either way, this is Black Fist and Red Blade signing out saying have a good one, y'all. Peace.